Putois is a spokesperson for PETA France, and she joins me from London. Anissa, good to have you on the program with us. This is a gradual ban on traveling circuses, keeping dolphins and killer whales in captivity in marine parks, and on raising mink on fur farms, as I said. But it does not apply to wild animals in other permanent shows and zoos. Is PETA satisfied with this ban, or do you think it doesn't go quite far enough?
Hi, thanks for having me. Yes, we're really satisfied with these announcements. I mean, they really target the cruelest forms of animal exploitation, of the exploitation of wild animals in captivity today. Of course, there is, as you say, zoos are still not included in these measures. Obviously, we do know that these animals, I mean, these places are also wholly unadapted to captive animals. But there is a consciousness that is opening up in France, and we're hoping that eventually these measures will pave the way to a wider consideration of all animals in captivity and eventually apply to them too. I mean, in zoos, we know that these animals are kept in very small spaces. They're denied everything that's important to them. They're separated from their families. Even the best zoos don't come close to the lives that they deserve to live in their natural habitats. Today, we know that animals are complex, sentient, intelligent beings. They suffer greatly from being caged and kept in tiny tanks. So these announcements are definitely worth celebrating.
You talked about a consciousness opening up in France, and we are seeing more support for banning circuses and other performances involving the use of wild animals, not just in France, but elsewhere around the world. What's behind this? Is this just about the general public becoming more educated on this?
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, so many groups in France and abroad have been campaigning against these issues for a very long time now, including PETA. And experts have spoken out, such as Europe's Federation of Veterinarians, saying how barbaric these shows are. We have undercover footage that show what bears go through, for instance, to be forced to stand on their hind legs. I mean, they're tied from their necks and forced to stay there for hours on end. Elephants are beaten, they receive shocks to stand on stools. Tigers are forced to jump through flaming hoops. I mean, these are obviously things that they do not want to do. They're threatened, they're denied food. This is cruel, and this is rampant and horrific abuse, and obviously no one wants to support that today.
There are people, though, who do oppose this law. Is it possible at all to keep wild animals in captivity in which they are not mistreated or exploited, or is there an alternative?
Well, there's just no need to keep wild animals captive. I mean, they're wild animals. It's in the name, isn't it? The only place that they should be is in the wild. Their basic needs just cannot be met in captivity. And on top of that, it's dangerous for the general public. I mean, we can't even count the number of fatal or even near fatal accidents that have occurred in circuses and in zoos of late. And thankfully, we can see today that circuses are now focusing on innovations. They're using holograms, or they're going back to basics, and they're using the arts of performance and acrobats who really want to perform and who aren't being threatened. So that's really today. I don't think we need an alternative. I think we are moving, we're evolving, and the minister talked about an evolution and a mature society that we're in, where we really want to respect animals and we really want to treat them with care and consideration.
I love the hologram animals, by the way. That's really a great way to get up close and personal without harming animal or human. I wanted to ask you, where do we draw the line? On one end we have house pets, for example, dogs and cats, or even horses, which are domesticated. And then on the very other end, we have circus animals and killer whales that are trained, and bears, for performances. Where do we draw the line between what we find to be acceptable and what's not acceptable?
That's an interesting question. I think we draw the line with, for instance, orcas and bears. We know that these are wild animals with complex needs, and these needs cannot be met unless they're in the wild. So and furthermore, whether this animal is wild or not, no animal should be subjected to the violent training methods for human gain that they suffer through in these marine parks or in circuses. With regards to companion animals, these are domesticated species that have been created by humans, And as long as we keep breeding them for profit, as is happening, there are just so many of them who are in shelters, who need a loving home. So, in our opinion, I mean, we really do encourage anyone who has space in their home and in their hearts to adopt an animal from a shelter and give them the best care that they can. I mean, it's a completely different relationship when we really care about a being and we bring them into our families, and we put their best interests first, as opposed to exploiting them and exhibiting them for entertainment and for profit.
All right, thank you so much, Anissa Putois. Great conversation, and it is great to hear that more people are becoming aware of the use and mistreatment of wild animals for these performances. Thank you so much for your time.